Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to confirm my voice is clear, is it? Can you hear my voice?
Can, Doctor.
Yes, Prof, yes.
Okay, thank you. So let me to start sharing the slides. So is it visible?
Yes.
All right. So once again, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for RMC to invite me to be with you in this session. During this session, I would like to share with you some my experience as a reviewer in many journal indexed by Web of Science in different quartile and different scopes. First of all, let me to introduce myself. I am Ali Jawad, an associate prof at Faculty of Applied Sciences, and also currently I am acting as chief editor of the Science Letter. So let me to show my why there is not movement. So this is my profile as a reviewer. So far, I have been reviewing mostly 382 papers to journal to 559 journals indexed by Web of Science. Most of them, the IQ1, IQ2 journals. And also I'm sharing with you based on what the editor choose the reviewers and how the reviewers assist the journals and editor to come out with the final decision on the manuscript. Another thing also I need to share with you, this is my reviewer recognition received from Web of Science presented by Poplons as a top peer review in 2019, and also a certificate of the publication, the Poplons Academy peer review. So this is my researcher profile, and this is important to know. In order to be a good reviewer, you have to have a good research profile, because they invite you based on your research contribution and based on your knowledge on the significant finding in the particular research area. So this is my researcher profile, and also these are some important recognition, and also would like to thank UiTM for their recognition for 2020 as a top researcher in Q1, top 3 in the Q1 journal, and the same thing goes with the Q2 journal, and also top researcher in top H index and top highest H index, and also top 10 among the top 10 in the publication of Web Science and Scopus. So let us start part 1, the relationship between the editors and reviewers. What the editors want from the reviewers and how the reviewer assists the editor. This is part 1. In part 2, we will go to practice the reviewing process, scanning segment by segment of the manuscript, starting from novelty, title, abstract, introduction, result and discussion, conclusion, references, and how to come out with the final decision. So let us to have overview of review process. For example, who should contacted you? So as a reviewer, so potential reviewer should be contacted by journals. That's fine. Who from the journal will contact you? Either the chief editor or the manuscript editor or handling editor or associate editor or co-editors. All different meanings, they perform the same duty. So here, so the journal, they will approach you via your email, preferable to reviewer to have an official email. So once you receive the email, they give you the author name, title, abstract, and time frame if you're available to review or not. And of course, they give you a chance to decline or sometimes to propose. For example, you are in the field, you are the right reviewer, but you are not free. And this is very big responsibility. When you give award, except you have to fulfill good quality of reviewing and be on time to submit your report. So here you can decline, you can suggest, and you can accept. So the reviewer receive papers, and also the reviewer perform review, and the reviewer, they have to submit the review to editors on time. Based on your review, based on your comments, so the editor will come through beside the other reviewer. It depends on the journal policies, how many reviewer will be invited for each particular manuscript, and based on the responses of reviewer will assist the editor to come out with the decision. And of course, the decision will go to the author, and I will talk in details in coming slide about the decision, how the editor decide the decision, and what type of decision should be given to the authors. This is the general reviewing process. First, when the author submit the manuscript to the journal, the PDF file will build up automatically, and once the editor assign you the author will receive a unique reference number. What does mean the unique reference number, or manuscript ID or manuscript number? So this manuscript giving a unique number. If the manuscript rejected, so this number will not transfer to another journal, will burn automatically. So sometimes once you receive the manuscript number, you know the rate of submission to this journal. For example, now at the mid of the year, when you submit to some high impact journal, you receive manuscript number more than 10,000. So we still at the half of the year, they receive more than 10,000 submissions. So the first screening comes from the editor. The most important thing to check by editor, need to check the title, check the relevancy to the journal scope and objective. The research topic, is it up to date? Is it interesting? And I will show you some real example about how the editor decide. So for a Q1 journal, so the 90% or 80% of rejection rate come from the editor, him or herself, even doesn't pass it to the reviewer. For a Q3 or Q4 journal, the rejection will come after reviewing. So once the editor agree to submit or to send the manuscript to the reviewers, he has to select the reviewers. So the number of reviewers, it depends on the journal policy. Sometimes they send for 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 5. Personally, the worst scenario that I received last 2 months, I received response from 9 reviewers on one manuscript. 7 of them support publication, 2 of them against publication, and the final decision was rejected. Even they don't follow the majority. Once again, it depends on the journal policy. The lowest number of reviewer I received, 1. So 1, and also the best practice, last time I received 1 reviewer with 1 comment just to improve the language. That's it. If there is no complaint of language, so the paper will accept straightforward without any revision. And this is seldom to happen, and not with me, with many even highly cited researcher. They have to have some comment to fulfill and to answer. So here, so this is the general procedure, and I will talk in details in the future. So here, how do the editors look for in the reviewers? So first, they need to find expertise in one or more areas of the paper. For sure, you cannot find 100% reviewer fit to your manuscript. That means they familiar with all experimental parts, familiar with all characterization, but at least 90%. Sometimes even your co-author in the paper, they are not so familiar with the paper. So there are so many possibilities to conduct the reviewer. First, the reviewer names, for example, from the cited references. So each paper or each manuscript has cited references. So from the cited references, the editor can approach the reviewer. Second, from the suggestion of the authors. Sometimes in every time they ask you to suggest, but seldom to adopt your suggestion. Third, from the reviewer bank. Each journal, they have list of the regular reviewer. They always invite them to give input on the manuscript. Or from your research profile. For example, someone sent an article talking about optimization or response surface methodology. So I am, as an editor, I need to find a suitable person. So I just key in the Google Scholar or the Scopus database, immediately will list to me many of the potential reviewers, so I can pick out. For this reason, sometimes as an author, when you receive response from the reviewers, you will find reviewer 2, reviewer 4, reviewer 6. So you will ask yourself, where is reviewer 1, where is reviewer 3, where is reviewer 5? Basically, for example, as I am an editor, I am very busy with many academician, many research activities. Besides this, I am handling very high impact journals, so the rate of submission is extremely high. So immediately I call 5 and I will see who will give positive response. For me, minimum 2 is enough. So sometimes you are unfortunate, 5 of them, they got positive response, so you receive 5 reports on your manuscript. Sometimes no, number 1 decline, number 3 decline, 2, 4, 6, they agree, okay, enough 3 to the editor. So this is how sometimes you receive huge number of reports and sometimes you receive only 2 or 3. Or sometimes even after receiving, if the editor doesn't agree with your quality of reviewing, either you are extremely positive or extremely negative, they can ignore your response. Okay, so they want from you, there is no conflict of interest. That means they are not one of the ex-co-author. There is no biasness. There is no from same institution. Even sometimes they receive, but it is not preferable. And also able to write good critique and should be accurate and readable and helpful to editors and authors. What does, for example, helpful? Helpful, you justify your comment. If you give positive comment, you support acceptance, you have to give them why you accept this word. And if you give negative or destructive comment, you have to justify. I am sorry, this one cannot accept for this following reason. And also the help the editor to come out with a decision, either to give minor revision, major revision, reject, or sometimes they ask them, if many comment, they ask them to reject with resubmission option. So this is the one, how to help the author to improve the quality of their manuscript. And sometimes some insight comment from reviewers, they not only improve the quality, they also improve the citability of the papers by asking them to revise the title to make it more informative, more accurate, more precise, to change the abstract to make it more informative, to add more quantitative values in the abstract rather than general information. The reviewer also can suggest to change the keywords, because the keywords, this is the search engine will capture the keywords and make it more visible compared to other who using the inappropriate keywords. So this one also can contribute to the citation, which is very important for both parties. As a researcher or authors, I feel more than happy to get more citation. And this is reflect to the scientific society. This is my contribution. This is my H index. This is my citation. On the other hand, from the editor point of view, they will increase their impact factor, because the impact factor is the relationship between number of citation last 2 years divided by number of published work. So they count the impact factor. Of course, this information sometimes even it is simple, but it is meaningful. So let us talk about the content of review. So when you agree to review, some journals, depends on their policy, they approach you via email. Some of them, they have professional submission system or online submission system, like Professional Publisher, Elsevier, Wiley, Tyler's Francis, Springer, and many others. So they provide reviewer forms and also need to provide comments to the editor and also comment to the authors. There are reviewing, for me, there are two types of comment. General comment, when you give comment about the general structure. For example, this manuscript is well written, well presented, the topic is up to date, and the author provide meaningful information in the field, and the language needs to be improved and proofreading is required. This is general. While specific recommendation, when you go segment by segment, part by part. For example, title, this one informative, this one need to be changed. Don't use abbreviation. When you go to the abstract should be informative, should be consist of we call it a specific comment. And basically sometimes the first or introducing comment, which is general comment, give a signal or give a clear message to the editor to accept, not to accept, to give a chance to repair or to revise the manuscript and eventually accept it. Or sometimes they give even the general comment will be very destructive, very negative. So the editor can take a decision to reject the words straightforward without giving the author any chance to repair or to revise their manuscript. Remember, the reviewing are generally blinded process. What does blind process? You know, sometimes, especially the professional publisher, they disclose everything to the reviewer. So here the reviewer identity is known to editor and journal staff. Also, reviewer's identity usually will not be released to the author. And also the reviewer's identity usually will not be released to the third party, and this is very confidential. So the intended to share the reviewers allowed to provide a critical, honest review, because I told you the most important thing to be very particular in your judgment and very honest and remove any personal connection. Judge the content given to you. Is it worth to publish or not? Is it good quality or need improvement? So here, no system is perfect. So sometimes they discover the reviewers, or sometimes the reviewers, if they are friends, they say yes, or for example, they notify they are friends, their papers with me, which is not preferable. And also, for example, it happens one time with our friend, one of colleagues received a paper to review from very high impact journal, and he put the post in the Facebook, this journal contacted me, give me this manuscript title, this manuscript ID to review. I am so honored. No, this is wrong. You have, it is confidential process. This is not to be posted in social media. You can put, for example, I have received invitation from this journal to review manuscript. Okay, if you insist on to disclose it to the people, but it is improper to put the reference manuscript ID, manuscript title in your post. So who is the ideal reviewer? The ideal reviewer who understands the work and hypothesis, familiar with the method. So basically, should only knowledgeable reviewer from the field should be conducted, and also able to judge quality of data, able to assess significance of the work. And for this reason, I have mentioned a good reviewer should be a good researcher. Why? Because always they are in the field, always they have publication, always deal with the fresh and update data, so they can easily recognize or to differentiate good quality work from low quality work, up-to-date work from outdated work. And also here, the ideal reviewers seldom exist because, as I mentioned, they are maybe quite busy and very hard to find exact person or the perfect person to judge or to evaluate this manuscript. And for this reason, editors often send the papers to multiple reviewers with different areas of expertise and different perspectives. Why? In order to cover all manuscripts. For example, somebody synthesize composite biopolymer, which is my field, and use it for antibacterial, which is not my field. So they call me and they call someone from microbiology or biology school, and another one from statistic, another one from food, if there is something. So each one, they give insight comment from their point of view, from their research interest, in order to cover whole manuscript. So here, do you have time to review? Remember very well, accepting the duty is a big responsibility, and the journal keeping asking you to provide the review on time, this is, for me, is shameful. And also put yourself in the same position of the reviewer. You are the author and somebody review your manuscript, they give positive response to the editor and keep in delaying the process, and as the author, you're still waiting their response. For this reason, you will find some papers take 6 months, some paper it takes 1 year to come out with the decision. Why? Because of the reviewer. They say yes and they don't fulfill. They keep reminding them, they don't send the report. So in this case, the author, the editor will approach another a group of reviewer to evaluate. So it takes as if you start from zero. So this is the reason why sometimes it takes so long time. Especially this is for some journals is very slow, and you can see by yourself. For example, you need to investigate this journal fast. As an author, you go to their history of reviewing and see. You find in general between 1 to 3 months it is acceptable. If exceeds 6 months, consider slow. Some journal, they don't give the decision after revision. Last time I faced one manuscript after 1 year. They give revision in order to give acceptance 1 year. So it's too long. So anyway, so for the how long it takes you to review, generally it takes minimum to me 1 to 2 hours. If this fit to my research background, it means I no need to go to literature to recall the all literature review. I know, I am aware. So I technically aware about the manuscript. So it takes around 2 hours to read. I read it twice. First, general scanning. Second, I go to the specific comment. So, and after that, we need to make comprehensive report in order to help the editor to come out with the proper decision. And as you know, the reviewing process is unfunded and unrewarded task. That means nobody will pay you and nobody will give you any cash or anything award, except thank you for reviewing, which is reflect your contribution to the science and to your research interest. And also reviewing comes upon the top reviewer, other top responsibilities. As I mentioned to you, this is not, for example, today you are free and you receive a manuscript to review, you give acceptance, and after a few days you will be so busy, you don't have time, and you just keep it quiet. No, this is commitment. If you agree to review, you have to review. And also for this reason, the invite reviewer can decline to review if unable to take the additional task, or sometimes you can suggest reviewer. For me personally, sometimes I feel I am overloaded with reviewing, and some reviewing come from some conference committee. So what is the best practice to me to nominate? So I suggest some of my specifically PhD students to give them a training. So I suggest their name to the journal. Some of them, they receive invitation, And I told them, I nominate your name as a reviewer. If you receive invitation from the journal, you can accept it. Do your reviewing and pass it up to me to double check. If I am satisfied, you submit. This is also training to the postgraduate, specifically in PhD level, to train them how to be a reviewer. But don't abuse. How? Don't abuse. That means you give acceptance under your name and ask them to review. Take the report and submit it by your name. No. You apologize and propose their name. At least they can get credit. Because at the end, once they register in the database, maybe in the future they call them up again to review. So give them a chance to be a reviewer. So another thing, after agreeing to review the paper, so the review agreed to provide a review that meets the needs and the standard of the journal within the time frame or specified time. Let me to tell you one important thing about the reviewing process. For me personally, I have been receiving many of invitations from different index journal with different impact factor. And sometimes even from non-index journal. Some friends for assistant, they ask to give insight comment on the manuscript. So for me, different quartile, I shouldn't, for example, when I receive paper from a Q1 journal, impact factor close to 10, shouldn't give the same quality of reviewing with I am receiving journal with just non-index journal or just Q4 journal. Shouldn't be the same. For example, the Q1 journal should be everything Q1. Title, for example, is just ordinary journal, just index, so I check the validity. Is it the experimental part correct? Is the literature review correct? Even though low novelty, I can give some constructive comment. Should not be standardized. The quality of reviewing for Q1 should go to any journal or any manuscript. No. So here the reviewer must be able to judge fairly and objectively the quality and significance of the work under review. And also the reviewer is obliged to support the encouraged publication. So they give a comment to the editor, and this comment will guide, will assist and help the editor to reach the final decision. Remember, again, the reviewing process is confidential. What does confidential? Not only to share with your colleagues if they are the authors, not to share with your friends, you have received this manuscript, this title to review. And remember, this is unpublished work. When the people approach you, they know you are in the same field, you have a good experience, or you are doing more or less the same research. So you cannot abuse for, oh, this is very nice explanation, I will copy it, and you give them rejection. No. So here the manuscript contains unpublished data and idea, and also must be kept confidential. So the review cannot share the manuscript or its contents with your colleagues for any reason. So what is the credit of review? So somebody asks, okay, what is the purpose? If I am a good reviewer, there is no reward, there is no cash award, there is unpaid, this is voluntary service, that's fine, but it is also important for your career to develop a track record, peer review process, to facilitate the future invitation. Of course, once you submit your report, the reviewer, they will rate, the editor will rate the reviewers. They have rating about your reviewing process. Is it good, excellent, very good, below the standard? And based on this recommendation, they can call you again and again, and also you another journal when your name become visible as a good reviewer to multiple journal. That means you already provide a good quality of reviewing, and all good quality journal happy with and satisfied with the quality of reviewing. So for this reason, they keep on calling you again and again to review to them. And also to build up the professional network, And also visibility to the name. For example, you are applying for a grant. Nowadays, everything's simple. So the people, they search by name, they immediately know what is your contribution as a researcher and as a reviewer. Also, it is a solid track record of performance in the peer review process will enhance the visibility of the reviewers and enhance the development careers. And also, another important thing, the journal, when they invite you to review and when you accept their invitations, they give you a link to access the literature in Science Direct Scopus. We have to remember one important thing: not all countries, not all educational or research institutions subscribe with Science Direct or Springer or any professional publisher. Also, it doesn't make sense, this country rich or poor is not a function. Sometimes the country, based on their national income, they are very rich, but there is no serious or special interest or attention paid to the education system. So they don't like to subscribe, because also they need to spend a lot of money for subscription. Not all countries subsidize this option. For this reason, they provide you. Why? They consider maybe you have, or maybe you are not, so at least they provide you for 1 month. For example, for some author from these countries, we have difficulties to access the literature. This is a great chance or very good hour to them to get to be a reviewer, because when become permanent or regular reviewer, so always they have an option to access the literature for free. We know very well if there is subscription, when you need to extract one paper, they ask you to pay around 40 USD to extract one article. So this is one of the, for me, one of the rewards for those they don't have any opportunity to access the literature. Okay, let me go to what is the journal needs scientific experts. So here the journal the journal rely on their reviews to evaluate the quality, importance, novelty of the science present in the manuscript. Also, editors frequently receive reviews that focus completely on minor editorial problems like typographical error, misspelling, it is not constructive comment, because you can put it under general comment. And sometimes, for example, from my experience, last few years become standard. Even though native speaker write the manuscript, from editorial board, please improve, please proofread, just make you to repolish and refine the language. So when you say the language needs improvement, doesn't consider insight and core comment. This is just general comment. And also some such reviewer limited value, they don't advise the editor on the importance and validity. So sometimes they give the comment and they don't give the judgment, or they don't provide the clear statement that enables the editor to come out the decision. For example, tell editor, this paper is good, but this revision are required. My decision is minor correction. My decision is, even though you can click it auto, but also from your letter or your report, you have to highlight what is your opinion on the manuscript. So what other things the reviewer need to consider? So need to consider the novelty of the work. So appropriateness of the material, method, experimental system, they use it. Is it correct? And also experimental design. It is logically, it is reproducible. The quality of data provided. So is there any statistic to support the significance of the study? Mathematical modeling, for example, if any, and the value of the discussion of the data, and also validity of conclusion in the paper. So here also the writing the reviewer's report, so must be clear, accurate, and also they put also their primary purpose to advise. So I advise to accept this work for this following reason. I advise to reject the work for these following reasons. For you, if you just advise rejection or acceptance or giving any correction without any justification, most likely the editor will ignore the comment of the reviewers. And also the comment should be to the author, very brief, and especially in case excellent or well prepared. And also they may be extensive if the review feels the paper has valuable element but requires extensive revision to present the finding effectively. So now when writing the reviewer report, so the quality of reviewer report should be constructive and collegial tone, because some of the reviewer are rude in their comment. It is the idea, you just convey your message. So please make it polite, because at the end they have to stick to your comment. Either it is polite or impolite. Okay, should be constructive and informative. So highlight the positive approach of the manuscript and also highlight the negative or weakness in order to improve if you agree with the quality of the data and the data presentation. And also the comments or recommendations should be clear and should be supported with citation to specific area. And also when the reviewer criticize or criticism rely on the supported by data literature will be very good. For example, this work doesn't worth to publish in this journal due to this is plenty of similar work are published. Kindly refer to these references. So you give argument in order to make your voice listen to the editor and also to convince the authors. Of course, a good review should be help author to think more clearly about their work and its design, execution, and presentation and significance. For me personally, as an author, when I receive comment from reviewers, sometimes I feel unhappy. I feel grum, why this one? But okay, let me to do it. When I do all the required revision, when I look to the quality of the manuscript before and after revision, oh, extremely different. So it's very good presentation after revision. So make sure, especially good reviewer, they give very constructive and they guide you to the right pathway to make your manuscript as informative as possible. Sometimes the reviewers also, they have message. They don't leave it open to you. They give you a message about the paper. So this they ask you is this the paper in the aim? Does the contain this is new science? Is the paper significant? And also I will repeat this one as a checklist. So at the beginning they will send it. Also at the end you have to answer this. So, okay, let us start. This is the part 2 of the presentation. Let us start reviewing a process. For example, now you are as a reviewer, you receive invitation via email from the editor to review the manuscript. And based on your expertise and experience, you feel you are qualified enough to review the manuscript. So you agree to review the manuscript. So now you will get the PDF file of the manuscript to review. So now we will go step by step reviewing how we judge the quality of each particular segment of the manuscript, and in the general, what is the total overview of the manuscript. First, need to check the relevance of a study. For example, is this paper relevant to the journal scope? Remember, the editors are a human being and they have a lot of tasks to handle. Sometimes they send you the paper or the manuscript to check, but they don't check it is quite relevant or not. Sometimes you need to highlight this is not relevant, is out of scope of your journal. So why you send to me? So you better to reject. So this is the first scanning. So basically this one you can find it especially in low quality journal. High quality journal, they have very good editorial team, and you can check by yourself, go to the editorial board and search name by name, and you see how they look to their research profile. They are all profile researchers. They are very knowledgeable and they are well understood their duties and tasks. So this is only from some journal, junior journal. They just pass it to you, and even they don't check the relevancy to their scope. So also this is a part of your duty as a reviewer to check the relevancy, the study address important problem or issue and worth doing, and also the study adds the literature already available on the subject. Okay, second, you move to the research novelty. Some of people confuse about novelty. Some of them consider novelty the work that has never been done before completely, which is impossible. So so which literature review you will adopt if nobody at all performed this research? So the novelty to show the difference to other. What is the gap that you cover in your research? For example, if you look to the image presented in this slide about pen drive, every one of us has pen drive. And for the company, when you produce pen drive, so first they come with 16 gigabyte. Okay, after that they come with 32 gigabyte. Is it novelty or not? The physical appearance the same, same design, same weight, everything the same, except the capacity is different. Yes, of course, it is significant, even though the casing, the killer, after that they move to 64. Why? Because they make some significant. And if you look to the capacity, almost double. They move from 16 to 32, from 32 to 64. They don't make it from 16 to 18. It is not significant. This is the novelty to me. So for example, you do something different than other or upgrade the previous work with some remarkable changes. This is about novelty. Okay, you satisfy with the novelty, you go second about the manuscript presentation. For me, when I receive the manuscript, first I will scan the manuscript from the title until the end of the references. From the first scanning, I can make general point of view. This paper, I will give a revision. This paper will be rejected because from the presentation, it is poor, illogic, the references are outdated, there is no clear structure of the data and data interpretation. So first need to check the, it is well written, it is complete with the full complete of data and characterization. Is it well organized? Are the data reported accurate and appropriate? Table and figure representation professionally presented? And also with the text, are the cited references relevant and accurate? Are the references up to date? Are the references from the reliable internet sources, from professional publisher, or from internet website unreliable? So all these will give you an idea how to write your report and what is the final decision will be given. So I need to check also the scientific conduct. So of course there is no instance of the plagiarism. For example, as a researcher, sometimes you can see there are some paragraph copied. Some journal, they do this scanning, especially for the cross-ref. They have various software to check the similarity. So now all or 90% of the journal, they implement this practice to avoid the plagiarism. And also the ideas and materials correctly presented and attributed. And also there is no apparent conflict of interest between another parties or grant funding or grant parties. This is the important thing. So what is the problem of the plagiarism? For example, this is the worst scenario to the journal and also to the author. So if they realize there is plagiarism, even after publication, the paper will be retracted. And retraction of the paper, this is very bad reputation for author, for university, for institution, or sometimes can affect badly the whole fame or the reputation of the country. And sometimes, many cases, the plagiarism is not is not on purpose. They don't aware about the rules and conditions. The researcher is not fully aware about the ethic, specifically if the manuscript written for postgraduate and the postgraduate are the corresponding author and they handle from A to Z and the principal is the investigators, either they don't care or they don't follow with them. For example, if your postgraduate student, they write paper and you have some figures and table are published with the previous batch of postgraduate, they consider this belongs to you, they copy and paste for comparison, and the paper is published. This is not belongs to you once published because belong to the journal. So this is the problem happen between journal and author. So the paper will retracted and the journal will be very bad situation. Why? Because especially if the paper published, they already got citation, got reference number when retracted, so they will change the impact factor. It is a lot of a problem. For this reason, good journal and reported journal, esteemed journal are very, very sensitive about the ethical issue, even more sensitive than scientific issue. Scientific issue, they can ask you to revise, to add figure, to explain table, to compare, but the ethical issue, they don't compromise with it. So let us to start reviewing the title. For me, the title, I read it twice. First, and the final, when I give report, I read it. I need to make sure all the certain or significant elements in the manuscript are presented in the title. So the title must be clear and informative. This title must be represent the content of the study. There is no misleading. There is no abbreviation because sometimes they put application of DOE for XYZ. Okay, DOE is abbreviation. What does it mean? Design of experiment, Department of Energy, Department of Environment. So for the authors, they know. For the audience, they don't know. Even for the search engine, when you capture or keywords, they give you a lot of suggestion. So for this reason, title, selection title and keywords is very crucial. Sometimes from my experience, I found that some of them authors, they write very good quality of manuscript, well organized, well presented, but the title is too general. So, okay, it can be accepted. But at the end, in terms when they need to go for citation, they themselves, they lower the chance of citation. Why? Because they don't use the proper keywords in the title. So second, to check the abstract. Abstract is very important element. Why? First, the abstract, if you receive invitation, the only part of the manuscript apparently or firstly disclosed to you is the abstract. If you agree from the abstract, then you can access the full PDF. Some journals, no, they give you abstract and the PDF. So this is the importance of the abstract. So if the abstract is clear, informative, the reviewer, they can accept the invitation. If any clear, they can decline and you will delay the process of your reviewing. This is number one. Number two, if you write informative abstract, so they can easily understand, they can understand all the work from the abstract. Another important thing of the abstract, after publication, if your paper published, remember one thing I highlighted before, not all educational and research institutions or countries, they subscribe with the literatures, professional publisher like Elsevier, Springer, But now if you make general searching, only the abstract will come out from the paper. If you request full PDF, you have two chances. Either your institution subscribe to you, or you have to pay, or some people, they have a crack link, they can extract it. Okay, let me to go to the standard way. So either you have subscription or you don't have, so you will get only the abstract. Some people, they can get citation for their paper only from the abstract. Of course, in the first page, the author names appear, the full title, reference, abstract. If the information given in the abstract, so sometimes the author doesn't need to read all the manuscript, or also extraction the full manuscript, it is okay, second priority. The abstract tells them all the story. So you can get citation from only the information provided by abstract. How? By writing meaningful abstract, informating abstract, avoid abstract without any quantitative finding, or if there is no quantitative finding, you ask the author to provide, to make it meaningful. Ask them, don't put good result, excellent performance, high efficiency. Okay, how high? Good for you, maybe bad for me. This is no matter, you have to give number. And also remember, the abstract should stand on its own as a single paragraph. So written as a single paragraph, even though the abstract should cover different segments like aim of study, experimental part, result, and conclusion, significance of the work. And once again, don't forget to check the right keywords. So now we move to second part, which is the introduction. Introduction, you need to check. How about the problem statement and research question, or sometimes we call it research gap? So is the introduction builds logical case and context for the problem statement? Is the problem statement is it clearly stated and fulfilled in the introduction? Is the conceptual framework is explicit and justified? So when the people read the introduction, they can get full idea about your research novelty, research objective, why you conduct this research, what is the difference between your research compared to the previous work that had been done previously, and also the variable being investigated are clearly identified and presented. So this you can write the remarks. If you're satisfied, you write is well written, well structured, informative. If you find any information missed or lacking of information, you can highlight it to the authors, of course, and the author, they will receive the comment by means of editor. Second, literature review. Is the literature review up to date? So supposedly when you do research, the research should be up to date. So you need to check the author, and I will show you a real example after that about literature review. So is the number of references appropriate and selection is judicious? So it is the review literature is integrated, so complement each other. There is clear flow of the research. And also, is the idea are acknowledged, appropriately and accurately presented? And also the most important thing, need to check the literature review should be up to date. That means when they do literature review, they prefer to cite the last 5 years, last 10 years, unless there is necessity to cite some of the outdated references. After that, we need to check the experimental part, the research design. For me, this is the most important and the most critical part to judge. I give you an example, and I will show you an example, a real example. If there is any problem in the introduction, they can ask you to revise, to highlight the research gap, to add on more on the literature review, to emphasize your objective. If there is some lacking information about literature review, or they ask you to update, If there is any lack of the instrumentation or the data interpretation, they will ask you to add on, to highlight this one. But if there is any doubt, any misconduct in methodology, the paper must reject it. And this is the killing point. So if any reviewer, if they have 10 reviewers give positive and one say I have doubt about methodology, the methodology applied is incorrect, or the result presented is not properly, so the paper will reject it straightforward. This is, the editor or the journal, they cannot compromise in this issue. So this is very important, and I will show you a real example. So here the design is appropriate, so an optimum to research questions. So the design has internal validity, potential confounding variables, and also the bases are addressed. So the design has external validity. For example, what is the reference they use? Is there any supporting? Is there any statistic? Is there any duplication, triplication of the result? So they want to make sure not they perform only once and you put the author present the data. So the design allows for unexpected outcomes or events to occur, and also the design and conduct of the study are plausible. So here also the experimental part, instrumentation, need to check. For example, are they provided sufficient and the concrete characterization? Because some people, they provide characterization for just number of characterization, meaningless, or very minimal information given. Or sometimes they do one characterization by different means. For example, zeta potential, PHP is the same except the different means. Okay, so they need to put some meaningful. Some people, they just like to increase the number of the characterization to convince the reviewers and editor to accept their work, but it is incorrect. You have to put the strong and relevant and informative characterization. It doesn't matter how many characterization. The most important, how good the characterization is, how informative the characterization is. So here about the experimental instrumentation, need to develop the content of instrument and need to sufficiently describe the instrument details, models, the brain, everything put, and also preparation, the details of preparation or replication, and also the measurement of instrument is appropriate and given the study variables, and also the scoring method is clearly defined, and also the quality control is described and adequate. For example, you have internal standard. Is internal standard used? Is there blank used? Is there any duplication, triplication of the result? What is the standard deviation? So all these should be validated by reviewers. And also inside comments should be highlighted for both to the authors and editor. So now we move to the data analysis. So after that, after instrumentation, of course, we come with the data analysis. So data analysis procedure, you can see, is it sufficiently described and permit the study to replicate? This is the importance of methodology. When you put clear methodology with complete information, it means your work is reproducible. That means when somebody print out your paper, go to the lab, repeat the same step, should be get the same result. Of course, some of authors, for various purposes, they don't like to disclose all the secret of their methodology. They hide one step in order not to get the same result, and they retain the rights of their product or the idea. And also the assumption underlying the use of statistic fulfilled by data. And also the number of analysis should be appropriated. And in some publisher, unlike American Chemical Society, if any author use any statistical software or any software, they ask them to provide the serial number in order to make sure the correctness of the software. They don't like the author to use the crack or predatory or parrot link in their research. They want them to show the license, the purchase number, anything to provide if they are using any software. So about result and discussion, now we go to the result and discussion. Need to check several points. I need to write your remarks on the result and discussion. For example, results should be organized in a way it is easy to understand. Second, should be complete. There is no lacking of the characterization or no lacking of the information or sufficient analysis or experiment should be made. So the amount of data presented is sufficient and appropriate. Table and figures should be in line with the text. So you should use the proper presentation. For example, the data, which one better presentation for the data? Is it figure, table, pie, bar, curve? So even among the figure, you have to choose or to check which is the best presentation of the data. Also, alternative interpretation of the finding are considered. Somebody or some researcher do the same, similar or close to your work, and they found the same result. You can cite under similar observation. From your experience, you find some X work relevant, but they don't highlight. You highlight to them. So what is the relevance between this work to others? You need to highlight in the literature review, you need to highlight in your result and discussion, and some important argument need to be adopted. Another important thing, units in all sections should be uniform. For example, the unit, they should use the right unit, and they shouldn't change the unit, even the spelling. For example, milliliter, M small, L capital, shouldn't be both small, shouldn't be both capital. Some of the author, they switch as they wish. Small, capital, no. And also the significant figure, significant figure, decimal places in the number should be controlled and should be unique and should be uniform. Sometimes 5 decimal places, sometimes 2. In the same table, you will find they use 5 decimal, 3, 2. No, they have to standardize. Another important thing to need to check in result and discussion, the figure representation and table, the caption should be provided with the full information, full experimental condition. What is the temperature? What is the time? What is the solution pH? What is the power? What is the magnification power for SEM image? So not just general information. So now we talk about conclusions. So at the end, we need to check the conclusions. So the conclusions are clearly stated and the key points stand out. The most important thing, some authors, they don't know, they copy from the abstract, put it in the conclusion. This is incorrect. They need to come out. The abstract tell you what you find. The conclusion tell you what is the importance of your finding. So also the conclusion follow from the design methods and result justification of the conclusion is well articulated. And also interpretation of the result are appropriate and the conclusion are accurate and should contain the quantitative finding or numbers, physical numbers. So now we move to the last part, the references. The reviewer, a job of reviewer to check the references, follow the guide for author. Sometimes the reviewer, they don't check, they consider this is belong to the journal. And the journal, they have to check the fitness of the reference style to their guide for author, how the authors adhere to the guide for author. Second, your job is to check it is up to date and it is cited in the right place in the manuscript and vice versa in the list of references. Is the references well distributed distributed on the manuscript body. Somebody asked, what does well distributed mean? For example, if the author used 40 references, total number of references is 40 cited references. So shouldn't be 35 in the introduction and another 5 distributed from the methodology, result and discussion, and so on. No, should be at least balanced, 20-20. And also the reference cited from the introduction should be recited in the result and discussion. For which reason you put them in the introduction and there is no relevancy in the result and discussion, there is no similarity with your work, there is no any approach between your research background and to their result or finding. So this is how to judge the references. Also, note from unreliable internet sources, specifically one of the important thing. So some people, some author, they use internet link from the Google, which is not reliable. So they have to go to the original references, and also need to avoid unpublished work. For example, this paper submitted to review, especially for self-citation. This is doesn't consider reference. The reference until after acceptance, even if it is accepted and not appear online with DOI, you cannot cite it. Or for example, as a reviewer, you have to check the validity of references. So this is what I explained to you previously. At the end, even though, for example, some you don't make it or you don't remember what the editor wants from you, the editor, they give you checklist to check. So ask you about the paper. So the paper full with the aim, the content, new science information, significant application. So the data presented is reliable and repeated, and the statistics is gathered. So it is the reference up to date. So you have to justify. For example, one by one. Yes, this paper is original and well constructed. Second, yes, consists of a new research idea. 3, it is the author repeated or triplicated and the standard deviation is provided. So you need to justify all these remarks given from the editorial board. Of course, not all journals ask you. Some of no, they just depend on their report. Some of them, no, they feel like to remind you section by section. So at the end, they come to the editor decision. So editor decision will mainly depends on the reviewer's recommendations. So for this reason, the editor decision can be accepted without any revision, which is very seldom to occur. Even though if you go to any professional or highly profile researcher in your field, highly cited researcher in your field, search for their publication, you will find always they have received, revised, accept. So even though they are extremely qualified, but you find some people still give them some constructive comment to prepare and to improve the quality of the manuscript. And they have to accept it with a clear conscience, and they have to accept it with a pleasure, because this is matter of point of view. Another important minor revision, if the people or the reviewer agree to give minor revisions, they give you minor revision. Major revisions, it depends on the decision of the reviewers. Somebody asked, what is the difference between minor and major revision, or how can I give the minor or major revision? Minor revision, when you ask them to do some minor touch-up, for example, they no need to add any etc. experiment, they no need to return back to the lab, they no need to go to perform some experiment and additional supplementary data are required. Just for example, you improve the caption, put the put the experimental condition in the caption, this rephrase, this one will be better, delete this. So that means they don't go to the lab, they don't to do any etc. interpretation, they need to do any etc. So this one should be considered minor. So And if you need to add, request them to improve the language, to perform, etc. Experiment to provide more characterization. So this one consider major. Some of reviewer are very strict. Even the reviewer, for example, if the reviewer agree to give major correction, so the reviewer will reject. So it depends on the reviewer, it depends on the journal policy, it depends on the journal impact factors, and also, as I mentioned to you, there is some part of luck, for example, especially of reviewing. So once the editor decides to send your manuscript for reviewing, they select reviewer. So sometimes you will be so lucky to find some reviewer are very helpful, very supportive, they give you, and sometimes you find very tough reviewer and very strict, so they give simple rejection. So the paper will, or the manuscript will go rejected. So this is the decision from the editor, and once the decision taken, some or majority of a good journal, they disseminate or circulate the decision with the reviewer. So the final decision is reached, and the decision is minor, major, accept, reject, and so on. So these are some top reasons why the manuscripts are rejected. So you can reject the manuscript, for example, from submitting to wrong journal. As I mentioned to you, the paper you receive as a reviewer is not relevant to the journal scope. So you can easily give them rejection. So no novelty or originality. So the work is almost exhausted and the idea is not new. So this should be fair enough to give rejection. So poor English grammar sometimes is very painful to read. Some manuscript is very poorly written and nobody check it, especially if come from the non-native speakers and even non-native speakers, because not all the peoples are English native speakers on the world, but at least they are qualified to write the manuscript. If not, they can assist, seeking assistance from collaborators and include their name if they are contributing. If not, they can pay to some language centers for proofreading. Sometimes they have a friend for friendship or for assistant, they can do this job, and you can, for example, some author, they acknowledge them in the acknowledgement. For example, incomplete or outdated review of literature, and I will show you a real example. So also, not clear methodology, and this is for me is the most important part to give you a good reason to reject the work if the methodology or the is incorrect. Incomplete, insufficient is no problem. You can ask them to ask the author to add on more. But if it is incorrect, you have to reject, because whatever information, explanation built up on the incorrect data, it will be incorrect interpretation. Another and the last possibility, failing to address the reviewers, editors' comment suggestions. Sometimes the reviewers give positive or constructive comment to the authors, and the editors agree to give them revision, and they perform the revision. Once they send the revision back to the reviewer, and the reviewer realize there is no serious action was taken by the reviewer, and the rejection is indispensable. They have to reject it. And also it depends, and I will show you one real example about the rejection after getting revision. So this is the real example from my experience and that I face with some manuscript that I had reviewed. Sorry, this is not I am reviewing, this is just example to tell you what is the role of editorial board. If you look to this articles, it is a review. This review written on the coronavirus, when this coronavirus pandemic started, end of 2019 or early 2020. when the pandemic affected badly the whole world. Please look carefully about the article history. And what did you conclude from the history? So the paper received on 31st January 2020. The paper accepted 31st January 2020. And there is no received in revised form. Received, accepted. So what is the lesson we can learn from this paper? Number one, the editorial board, they have the full right to accept the manuscript even without reviewing. They can make internal reviewing. For example, I am the handling editor and I received this paper. This is a review on coronavirus, and this is very hot topic nowadays. Hot topic to give awareness to the people. To the journal, I can make very good impact factor by citing this paper by others. So I want to release it as soon as possible. So what I do, I call 2 or 3 editors. I call them, please check it and give me the decision by today. So accept. No need to go for reviewing. So editorial board, they have the full right to accept. For example, if there is any minimal correction, they can waive it and give acceptance straightforward. Why? Because they want to publish it as soon as possible. Because if there is revision, they send the revision to the authors. They have to give them minimum 2 weeks to 1 month to prepare. For them, it is long time. They want this product to come to the market, to make it, to start citation and to improve their impact factor. Remember, a good journal are professional, from the chief editor until even the technical part. They are very professional and they know very well how to play the role of the game. For this reason, you found the impact factor increased rapidly. If you realize last 2 weeks, end of 1st July specifically, the new impact factor was released to all journals. And if you compare the journal published with Elsevier, the impact factor increased remarkably. For example, if the journal impact factor last year 3 become 5, almost double. Compared to the journal published in Springer, Wiley, increased, but still very minimal. 2.5 become 3, 3.5 become 4. Why? Because Elsevier is very extremely professional and they are handling everything. They are very strict about the reviewing time. Once the paper accepted, immediately they make it online with DOI. Why? Make it visible to the audience in order to get citation. Within 1 week, they send you corrected proof. Within 2 weeks, they appears in online. Compare with another publisher, it takes 6 months for a production, another 6 months to come. For this reason, you find the impact factor will be much lesser compared with the similar journal in Elsevier, almost double. Why? Professional handling. Same story here with the paper. So the paper accepted at the same day. Why? For this reason, I already mentioned the editorial board, they have full right to accept it. It is very hot topic, very demanded, and they would like to release it first. Because if they reject it or any delay, maybe the author submit to another journal. And the another journal, they will make advantage and profit and good citation from this paper. So they don't like to lose it. Second, this is another real example. Last 2 or 3 months, I've been invited to check the revision of this paper. Of course, the title is very fit to my research interest. When I received it was revised. I am not the one who checking the original manuscript. So I believe the editor received sufficient number of the reviews, but still need assistance from someone who is knowledgeable to give the final word about the work. For me, when I check the work, it is very well organized, very nicely written, very well structured, and very informative characterization. But what is the problem of this work? When I look to the methodology, because I am using this die in my lab, I know very well This dye is very sensitive to the solution pH. When change the solution pH, the dye color will be changed, and the removal will be from the solution pH effect, not from the adsorbent material that we use. So this type of researcher, they don't aware about this issue, and unfortunately, they come to me. So when I check the methodology, they write the in the title, they use Congo red. This is a type of dyes. From the title, sorry, Congo red, it is red in color. When I check here, they present it is blue. So there are two chances. Either they use wrong dyes, or this dyes, as I know, it is sensitive to the solution pH. So you cannot trust the result of your material based on the changing pH. So I write one sentence to the editor. I told the editor, as I told you now, this manuscript is well written, well organized, well characterized, but the problem, incorrect determining method for the dye removal. So, sorry, is incorrect treatment for the dye solution. And I believe the method is the method conducted in this research is incorrect. So immediately this is the decision. So thank you once again for reviewing the above reference. So with your help, the following decision has been rejected. So even though I realize I am 1 out 4 reviewers, 3 of them, they support publication, only me rejected. But because my rejection comes from the methodology, so they were rejected straightforward. So my advice to all reviewers to focus on methodology. Sometimes if the paper of the novelty is not so high, it's okay. As long as it is in standard, well characterized, the interpretation is correct. But if the methodology wrong or there is some misconduct in the research, so definitely the interpretation and the characterization will be wrong as well. I will show you another example. This is one of the paper passed to me to check, to review on 2020. So when I make fast glance on the review on the paper, when I check the references, I found the last or the most updated reference was cited in 2006. And the paper given to me to check in 2020. So 14 years behind the latest paper cited. So immediately I write to the editor, I say, this paper should be rejected from you before you pass it to the reviewer because the outdated references. Another example, this manuscript given to me early this year. So the manuscript, as I mentioned to you, was simple, but it is sound in the methodology. It is correct in the research conduct, and also the statistical analysis was correctly made. So, but there are many technical problems in the manuscript. So I was so concentrative and I was so helpful with this manuscript. So I make around 10 to 12 points to them to prepare. And unfortunately, and I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I give them the correct things. For example, I mention to them, this one is incorrect. The correct term is this one. Until to this extent, to help them to improve their quality. So when I received the revision, I found 90% of my requests are ignored. And even worse, because I give them the solution. Sometimes they are not knowledgeable enough, they don't have time, they don't know is written by undergraduate student, because I told them this is the drawback and this is the problem with your research and this is the solution. Please copy this one, please highlight, please revise to be in this. I found they don't perform it perfectly. And even worse, I found this editor depends on only a single reviewer, which is me. So this is make a double responsibility. So I write to the editor, I told the editor, the author did not perform perfectly the required revision and many highlighted points are ignored. So I recommended rejection of this work without giving them any second chance to revise. So after a while, I received the decision from the editor, and as you can see, so I mentioned the reject decision, and basically, in general, they send the decision only reject. Besides this one, the author, the reviewer, sorry, the editor, they try to thank me and mention thank you for contribution and time in reviewing this manuscript, which not only assists me in reaching my decision, but also enables the authors to disseminate their work at the highest possible quality. So the paper rejected even after revision. So this is all from my side. Thank you for your nice attention. And I hope the examples and the information provided in this session will be helpful and informative. So thank you so much. And if you have, I don't know how to go back to the stop sharing. Okay, so now I hand over the talk to Puan Hamiza.
Okay, ada sebarang soalan ke? Kita buka untuk sesi soal jawab jika ada yang ingin mengemukakan soalan.
Hi, Dr. Ali. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to you and you were talking about this reviewing process and all that. But most of us here are editors. How do we ensure this reviewer will do what you are saying, being ethical, won't share the manuscript and so on? You know, so this is like beyond the editor's control or the managing editor's control. So what is your take in this?
Yes, you are right. This is for me is uncontrollable issue, but they have to be, for example, the reviewer, basically they are academic people and they have to be very aware about the ethic. For example, I agree with you, fully agree with you. For example, people with the professor title, with associate professor title, with PhD title, or holding PhD, it doesn't reflect how good they are. It doesn't reflect how honest they are. It reflects they attend some certain courses or they fulfill some certain research enables them to get PhD.
Yeah.
So this is for this reason. I told you, and honestly, it depends. This is matter of reputation. You get me? So, for example, if you send for Japanese reviewer, I am sure you will be very comfortable and very high level of trust with them, because you know they have very sensitive about the ethic. So it depends. Yes, I told you. It depends on the society. It depends on the personal commitment. Some people they consider is very high level of the. This is responsibility, and they have to respect it. And some no, they take it as I mentioned earlier. One of my friend, he doesn't share with the authors, but he put in the Facebook. I am honored to. He doesn't aware. So I found his ex-SV in PhD say you have to immediately remove the post. This is very confidential. But basically, for me, I honestly, for me as an editor, I can know when I receive the response from the reviewer, I know very well if the reviewer will spend certain time and they are highlight very critical issue, or just give any simple comment just to receive the thank you and put it in their poplons, or also just to get certificate of reviewing. You can differentiate, even though it doesn't share with their friend, but sometimes they don't provide the quality of reviewing. Last time, I give you an example. One of my colleagues, last time we're talking about the teaching load, how busy we are, about many activities we need to perform. So one of friends, he mentioned last time he received a manuscript from X journal, and he accepted the task to be a reviewer, and after a while, he was very busy, and the reviewer, the editor, keep reminding him, where is your report? Where is the report? What happened? So he mentioned the paper is not suitable to your esteemed journal, so better to reject it without even reading. This is unethical. You have to read it and you give justification.
So, Dr. Ali, just a follow-up. In your experience, have you come across?
So for you as a chief editor, you have to double check. Even though we let us to assume, so we are as academician, we have at least the minimal ethic to fulfill or to maintain. For example, when you receive a report, you check. So sometimes they put like just general comment. Thank you, very good, publish as it is. Okay, publish as it is. Okay, based on what you give this judgment? Publish based on what? Novelty good, it is high impact, it's an idea, so based on what? Okay, if you reject it, also based on what? Some people, they reject for no reason, as I mentioned to you. So this is your job, not only, so for this reason, any professional journal, you go to highest impact factor. So the final decision from editorial board. I told you last time, the one of the manuscript of mine received 9 reviewers, 7 supporting publication, 2 they give negative, so I give rejection. So they tend to be negative. So it depends. So the most important thing, this is your job to check. For this reason, you find, as I mentioned to you now, I receive paper 2 review, which is revised, R1. So revised, why? Because I believe and I'm sure the editor, he or she doesn't satisfied with the comment, so he need to recall another one to double confirm his suspicious, to give final word. Is it positive or negative, black or white? So once again, you have to check by yourself the quality of reviewing.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ali. But just a follow, have you come across anywhere in this IT generation where we can have a reviewer bank where they will have comments on this reviewer is blacklisted or is no good or these are good?
I give you an example. For example, now I am an editor. I call reviewer X, and I am not satisfied with his quality of reviewing. First, I will recall another one to review. Second, I will put him in a blacklist. In future, I will not recall him at all.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, for this reason, for example, when we're talking, at the beginning, I'm presenting my progress as a reviewer for 95 journals, and more of them, the minimum I go many times to review to them, because they have in their system, especially professional journal, they have rating for reviewers.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they have rating. For example, they have checklist. For example, are you satisfied? They give you quality, insight, blah, blah, blah. So you will get mark at the end. I know some friend told me I am not an editor with the Q1 journal, but from the system, from editorial board, they give you point. At the end, you will get mark, like the students, they get A plus, B. So from this mark, they encourage them to recall you again and again, and another journals, they will recall you because based on your reputation. But of course, for example, we are also an editors in the, let me say, institutional journal, we're still using the basic system for submission. So we still struggling to find a good reviewer, because a good reviewer, as I mentioned, seldom to find. They are quite busy and they have very good friends for a Q1 journal. They need to spare their time only to Q1 journal. If you invite them, they even doesn't reply to you. You get me? So for example, you have to start with your young researcher. There are many are good for me from my experience. Even sometimes they just fresh PhD graduate, some of them with master degree, but they can give insight evaluation. I mentioned to you last time I received many beyond my capability to review. So I nominate my postgraduate students, especially PhD in the final stage, about to finish writing, to be a reviewer. But at the same time, they approach them directly at the same time, I ask them, please share with me your review before pass it up to editor. If I have any comment, I will highlight to you, at least will be constructed. Second, you will learn in the future, you will repair and make it more informative, your response to the editor.
Thank you
So
for
again,
sharing.
there is no control. Yeah, you have
Yeah.
to make your inside yourself, your conscious to control you. Is there anything from the distinguished participant, editors, researchers?
Ada lagi seseorang yang nak bertanyakan soalan ke?
Hi, Dr. Ali. This is Dr. Yong.
Okay.
Dr. Ali, this is not a question, but rather a bit of clarification on what you mentioned about the journal management system. Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Now, recently, late last year, RMC have subscribed to Scholar One, which is offered by Clarivate Analytics. So for any journal editors here who is interested to subscribe to Scholar One, the price tag here is around 60 to 70,000 for 2 years per journal. 60 to 70,000 Malaysian ringgit for 2 years. So it's not that we don't want to expand this, but we also need to consider the sustainability in terms of how best UiTM can finance this one. UiTM is a big university, so there is a limit that we can finance this one. And because of that, we only open to 5 journals in UiTM. That is Index is Scopus, and they were going to recover this fund by charging article publication fee. So majority of UiTM journals here, they are open access and they are free of charge. That attracts paper. However, if journal editors here who wishes to subscribe to this so-called premium journal manuscript submission system, the price tag is 60 to 70,000 lah. Okay.
Okay, Dr. Yon, thank you so much for this note. Basically, when, any journal, when using or adopting a professional submission system, give the feeling of trust to the researcher to submit to them. So they give them feeling as if they submit to any Q1 journal. Of course, yes, because UiTM, this is a big university with many journals, so they need to come with a priority to compare with the ordinary journal and extraordinary journal, and need to give a chance to extraordinary journal. At least they can get some rewards from the money that's spent for subscription. So anything else from the distinguished audience?
Dr. Ali, I suddenly come across with one matter that I would like to ask you regarding the many invitation for you to review articles.
Yeah.
So can you explain a little bit how come you receive that many invitation to review, whereas most of us we don't? Can you explain a little bit?
But I basically highlighted, for example, what I tell you, there is some writing, I don't know, for me is not visible, but visible to me. But I know, for example, the people, they act as the editor in a Q1 journal, they have rating to the reviewer. For example, I never give any simple comment to the journal for any paper. If I need to accept, I need to justify why I'm accepting. And all these I highlighted. For example, title, informative. Abstract, informative. Methodology, so each section I give comment. So for me, for the editor, give level of satisfaction. So of course, this is like, to say, like any business, any market. When you have more customer, that means there is a relationship, a trust relationship between the journal and the editorial board of the journal and the reviewer. So when become more visible, so more journal will try to approach you to review to them. So for me, I am seldom to reject because for me, I found this is very interesting to see unpublished work. Even this is a fresh idea. It doesn't come to the light still. The most important thing also, sometimes if you review, but you make a lot of hassle to the editor, for example, they keep reminding you and they keep asking you, where is your report? They give you once and they don't ask again. So for example, for me, always, if they give me 2 weeks, within 1 week, or sometimes sometimes at the same day, because always the night time when I feel tired from any academician, I feel like to read. So I will allocate, for example, 2 hours at night before I sleep to read 1 article. So I make, and so sometimes if you pass it early, for example, if they give you 2 weeks and you immediately next week you pass it to them, so editor, they feel happy, the quality there, very responsive, so immediately they assign you to another paper. So sometimes I feel sometimes, oh, maybe I did bad to give very fast response because they keep asking me to review. Of course, they need speedy process. So maybe this is the reason, because I don't like to delay. I never receive any reminder from any journal, because this is even though it is auto reminder. After 1 week, they remind you. After 2 weeks. So this is how. So for me, when you become more visible, so more journal will approach you. For this reason, even pop loans, the good things of pop loans, they count how many journal they approach you. For example, I review so far in 95 journals, but some of them I review up to 40 articles, some of them 1, some of them 2. It depends. It depends, for example, on the suitability of the manuscript. So if the manuscript fit to my area, they can call me if they found there is informative comment from my side. So they can call me again. So, and also there are so many situations you can see. For me, it is a good chance. Why? Because, for example, if I review this manuscript, I give my comment. When I receive the revised version to check, I will see the other reviewers' comment. Sometimes also I can expand or improve my quality because I am not the best. So some of them, they give even more insight. So I try to improve because I can see the other comment visible to me. And if you look about a good reviewing, good journal, you will find the decision of the reviewers is the same. The quality, the quantity of the reviewing is the same. Almost they highlight the same issue. So you feel, even the editor, they feel satisfied and they feel happy with the quality of reviewing. So once again, you have to be punctual. You have to be very particular in your assignment. So this is, I think, this is the key. But basically, Dr. Young, I told you one important thing also. This takes a lot of time from me. So if you count, I think more than 180 articles I reviewed within 2020. So I'm unsure, around 160 to 180 in this range. So if each paper, it takes me 2 hours, you can count how much time spent from me. And not all universities appreciate or not take it into account. Some universities, they take it in the teaching load. Some universities taking in your promotion. So they consider international recognition. Some universities, they go, okay, this is personal issue. If you like to review. If you don't like, nobody force you. So if you show 2 certificates to me at the KPI at the end of the year, that's fair enough. If you have 200, you receive the same treatment. So this is, you say, this is self-actualization or self-interest. I am unsure. Maybe the others, they receive invitation, but they decline. They don't like to bother themselves. For what, they say.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Ali.
Many thanks, Dr. Young.
May I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Okay. For example, if contain a reviewer on the subject which is not particularly on the specific area of interest,
Yep.
what actually the reviewer should do? Because sometimes I get
Basically, you have to address to them. You reply to them. You decline with reason. Decline with reason. So you mention, because this the manuscript sent to me to you to review is totally out of your scope. So you are unable to give insight, comment, or quality review. And sometimes they ask you to suggest if you have any friend to take over or to suitable to perform reviewing, you can suggest. Sometimes if I don't have, I just mention because I am not qualified to review. And this happened to me last week. I used to be a reviewer for one of the top journal in carbohydrate, which is carbohydrate polymers. They call me once a while to review, and all the paper given to me are insight and very relevant to my research interest. Last week, they give me one paper. It is not in my application. It is carbohydrate polymer, but it is so far from my research interest. So I write to the editor. I say, I wish to review, but it is out of my research interest. And as a Q1 journal impact factor close to the 10, you expected to receive a quality of reviewing, which as I am not qualified to give this quality on this manuscript. So I wish to serve you in another manuscript. Thank you. So this is what my answer to them. Also, there is another experience with me. Last time I received one paper about microbiology, which is not my field, but the people or the researcher did experimental design and statistical modeling, which is also my expertise. So when I received invitation, first I surprised, this is microbiology, but okay, I say, this is the editor, call me, want my feedback or my input on the statistical part. Okay, I will check statistical part and let the other reviewer to check the microbiology part. So I review everything carefully from statistical, and I told to the editor, from my experience, I check the statistics. I found this remark, 1, 2, 3, simple remark to need to highlight, and the statistics are correctly performed. So after a while, when I received the revision, so I found the editor rely only on my comment. So I say, for my side, it's okay. So immediately give acceptance to them. I don't know the microbiology is correct or no. So the editor should assign somebody from another background to check. But okay, so it's accepted and become online. So for me, I check the statistical part. So okay, I cover 50%. So how about the other? So the editor is very, let me say, very positive and very supportive. So they just give them acceptance straightforward. Okay, that's fine if you like to accept the work. Or maybe the editor, he from biological background, so he believe the methodology or the experimental procedure of the microbiology testing is correct. So that's it. So is there any question, any thought, any comment, any suggestion from the distinguished audience?
Sorry, Dr. Ali, can I ask question?
Yes, please.
Basically, I have a situation like you mentioned just now, which is something related to biology, which is not really my interest or my area. But
Yep.
half of the paper content might be related to me, like material science, something like that. Okay, so my question is, as an editor, in that case, if we know that someone who is you trust to review, and then she or he can only give a feedback 60% of the content of the paper.
Well, you mentioned in your, for example, first, as I mentioned earlier, there is general comment and there is specific. In general comment, you see, for example, from my research background, I am able to give equality in this part. So I wish the reviewer to check or to call another reviewer. And from your investigation, you found this is the positive point, or this is the revision need to be done. At least you clear your area, you clear your site. So this is 50% and understand, and this is my comment on the 50% of the manuscript. So let the editor to decide. If they like to accept it, as I mentioned to you, and as I showed the example, they have full right to accept it even without reviewing. If they feel like to satisfy with your comment, they can adopt your comment only. If they need to cover from A to Z, they can recall another reviewer to cover the gap that you left to them.
So normally, how long does it take when you want to find another reviewer for another section? Did you give a certain duration?
Because sometimes I told you, sometimes as an editor, sometimes I send the reviewing invitation to the particular reviewer, which is in the field, and they accept, and after that they no show, they don't give anything. So I remind once, twice, and after that I have to find another one. And this is the problem. For sometimes you find, even as an author, our paper takes long time to get the response from the editor. Why? Because sometimes the reviewers, they don't respond on time.
Thank you.
Or sometimes they respond, but there is no concrete comment. So the editor feel unsatisfied. So need to recall another group of reviewers. So the waiting time become double or triple sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ada soalan lain ke yang nak diajukan kepada Dr. Ali?
Okay, thank you so much, Juan Hamiza, and I appreciate all the distinguished participants to be with me, and this is for me not also a good chance to communicate with the professional editors, researcher, and also for sure this is two way of learning. Also, I am learning from some issue that you face, some question that you raised. So I wish to meet again and again in another scientific event. So thank you and have a nice day.
Ribuan terima kasih diucapkan kepada Dr. Ali atas perkongsian sebentar tadi. Banyak input yang telah diberikan, seterusnya diharap dapat dipraktikkan dalam menguruskan penerbitan jurnal. Mohon para hadirin untuk on kamera sekali lagi untuk tujuan sesi bergambar dengan Dr. Ali. Okey, 1, 2, 3. Kenapa dia hilang? Okay, semula 1, 2, 3. Hadirin yang dihormati, dengan berakhirnya sesi taklimat dari Dr. Ali sebentar tadi, maka berakhirlah majlis kita pada hari ini. Mohon jasa baik para hadirin untuk mengimbas yang akan dipancarkan untuk tujuan pendaftaran kehadiran atau klik pautan URL yang telah diberikan oleh pihak sekretariat di ruangan chat. Kita sudahi majlis kita pada hari ini dengan tasbih kifarah dan surah Al-As. Jumpa esok pada jam 8.30. Sekian, terima kasih.